Now that the paint's all dry, everything's up, I decided I'm not going to do clouds. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know why, because that blue works really well with doing a blue screen effect, and I'm able to just project clouds doing that. So I'm just not even going to bother painting the wall. I like the blue. We're just leaving it bright blue. I wanted to start changing the tables around though. And what I did is I started with removing both the 8-foot by 8-foot sections that I adjusted off my table. And then I got started on disassembling the big section. And while I was disassembling the large section of the table, it kind of dawned on me, it's very cold and snowing outside. And in order for me to build a brand new table, I have to set up my saws and my workbenches and everything outside the door because I can't cut the wood inside the barn because dust will get everywhere. So I had a change of feelings. I thought I'll do it later, and I just decided to say heck with it and leave the table alone and just push it up against the wall. And it still has about 1.5 feet of distance between the wall and the build to give me room to squeeze in between. But now that I had all that out of the way, I wanted to start setting up a train layout because to me, the city absolutely has to have some movement in it, and the only way to do that is to set up a train. And I'm using 9-volt track. So what I originally thought I was going to do is put a loop at either end and just have the track come all the way down and around the table. And then I learned a valuable lesson today on 9-volt track. You can't do that because it short circuits it. As you can see, the train does not want to move at all. And like I said, it took me a little bit to kind of figure that out. I really didn't think about it. I used to have hoe trains when I was a kid, and I simply forgot about a lot of the different rules in regards to setting up the train track. So after learning and figuring that out again, what I had to do is go back and tear apart everything that I did. And instead of having a single loop on either end, I put a loop, and it's a dual track now all the way around the entire table. I still may even change the layout of the train track a little bit more as I go along, but my primary focus right now was just to get a nice loop going around the table and get it set up because at this one corner of the table, I intend on putting a train station. And now here is where the hard part of creating an entire new city begins, because you know what? That train station that everybody loves, I believe, is about to get crushed, along with several other very large builds that I have. And don't worry, because I know people love to see destruction, so I have saved that to the end of the video so that way you can see every single building that I decide to crush. First, let's talk about some of my plans. Over at this end of the table, I plan to have a very large and thriving city with streets and very tall buildings. I even want to do some type of trolley car. And then as you come this way, it'll start getting more suburbish. In the back over here, I want to have like a farming area. When I say farming, I mean like silos, factory type environment, so to speak, there in the backdrop. In the center here, I want to do a bunch of water. And then as we come over to this side of the table, a little more suburbs. And guess what? Right there, I want a train station. And now the most difficult part of starting over, and I know people don't want to see this, but I have to destroy some buildings because I desperately need the parts. If I don't start ripping some of these old builds apart, I won't have enough pieces or even plates to start designing and working on my new Lego city. This next building, I think there's a lot of people that will actually be glad to see it go. This was the massive parking garage that I used to have attached to the front of my airport. To me, it was a great way to show people how to use those unwanted intersection plates that everybody used to get a ton of. But it's just another building to me that's taking up a lot of space, and it really doesn't need to be there. Now, because that is attached to my airport, I decided I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the airport too. I love my airport, but it's time for it to go. And before I could do that, I had to unwire the entire building, which was quite a task in and of itself, to say the least. I didn't use the current lighting system that I use now. When I built this particular build, I used Brixmax lights. It was when I first started learning about lighting, and I honestly have to say I hate their lighting system because you have to use these little plug ports everywhere anytime you want to add lights or do any more illumination throughout your building. So it adds to the cost. But not only that, they have these cheap little plugs on the end of the wire, and even though they're great and they slide through holes everywhere, they fall apart really easily, and quite a few fell apart while I was dismantling them for my airport. But another problem with the airport is quite simply this. with an airport, there's really nothing fancy about it. It's just a big open airfield with a blank runway. That's it. So to me, I want to have a lot of little details and interesting things going on in my city. And to have an airport in a Lego city, even though I know I do have the space for an airport, I just feel like it's something that it doesn't really appeal to most people. And I get it. It's because it's a very plain build. No pun intended. But seriously, I feel like it doesn't really add to any cool detail or effect to my Lego city, which is why I decided to go ahead and get rid of it. But I'm going to stop the video here because I have so many piles of Lego that I have to sort now, and I've got a lot of other things I need to get to. But I can tell you that no building is safe, and I do still have more buildings out of these that I intend to destroy. So don't forget to check back next week to see what decision I make.